When you think of prehistoric terror, what comes to mind? Dinosaurs, right? But what if I told you that for millions of years, the real horror show wasn't happening on land at all? It was happening just beneath the waves.
Yeah, we've all been taught that the Tyrannosaurus rex was the ultimate predator, the undisputed king of its world. But the truth is, the oceans were worse, a lot worse. I mean, for over 150 million years, the prehistoric seas were a legitimate nightmare zone. This was a battlefield where evolution just went completely feral, cooking up some of the strangest and most lethal predators our planet has ever seen. So you gotta ask, how did these monsters actually rule their world? Well, the first and most direct strategy was just raw, overwhelming brute force. Let's dive in and meet the undisputed kings of the shallows. All right, first up, the mosasaur. Now, this guy wasn't technically a dinosaur. No, it was a massive marine reptile, and it was the absolute top dog of the late Cretaceous seas. We are talking about a true titan here. I mean, just try to picture the sheer scale of this thing. A mosasaur could grow longer than a school bus. Its jaws, they were double-hinged so it could unhitch its mouth and swallow enormous prey whole. And its teeth weren't for chewing. Nope, they were like curved hooks, designed just to grip and to tear. So what was on the menu? Pretty much everything it wanted, including sharks. Okay, so the mosasaur was a terrifying hunter, for sure. But the pliosaur, well, the pliosaur was the ocean's undisputed heavyweight champion. This beast dominated the Jurassic, and it did it with a gigantic skull and a bite that was just in a whole other league. Get this, we have fossil evidence that suggests the plesiosaur's bite force was even more powerful than a T-Rex's. Just let that sink in for a second. The supposed king of the dinosaurs on land couldn't bite as hard as this monster from the sea.
This thing was built for one job and one job only: pure, crushing power. Its head alone was as long as a modern car. Its teeth were basically giant spikes made for shattering bone. And it moved through the water with 4 massive flippers. This was the grizzly bear of the ocean, and it hunted other huge marine reptiles without a second thought.
But, brute force wasn't the only way to make it to the top. As we go deeper into the ocean, we find a totally different kind of killer. These are the specialized assassins of the abyss, creatures that relied on some really bizarre and deadly adaptations. Okay, say hello to the plesiosaur. You've probably seen this one, the famous long-necked reptile. It's often compared to an aquatic cobra, and for good reason. That iconic shape, it wasn't just for show. It was a critical part of a really unique and patient hunting style. So here's how it worked, a masterpiece of silent ambush. The plesiosaur would keep its big body hidden down in the murky depths. Then, that impossibly long neck would just snake upwards, scanning the water above for the silhouettes of fish. And then, bam! With incredible speed, its head would strike from below, snatching its unsuspecting meal in an instant. All right, let's look at another deep-sea specialist, the ichthyosaur. Now, this one wasn't a brute at all. This was a living torpedo, perfectly engineered for speed and for hunting in the pitch-black abyss. And it had a very, very special secret weapon. And that secret weapon? Its eyes. One species, the Ophthalmosaurus, had eyes that were up to 9 inches across. We're talking the size of basketballs. These were the largest eyes of any known animal, ever in history, and they were designed for one purpose: to see in absolute, total darkness. I mean, this was just complete mastery of the deep. Its eye sockets were reinforced with bone rings to stop them from collapsing under the crushing pressure thousands of feet down. It could hold its breath for over 20 minutes while it rocketed through the darkness. It was basically nature's perfect deep-sea sniper. So what we're seeing here are 2 totally different ways to get to the top of the food chain. In the sunlit shallows, it was all an arms race of power, It favored the crushing jaws of the mosasaur and the plesiosaur. But down in the dark abyss, survival rewarded something else entirely: specialized adaptations and surprise strikes, like with the plesiosaur and the ichthyosaur. Okay, but how do we actually know any of this is real? I mean, it sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? Well, this entire story is pieced together from these incredible echoes from the abyss, the fossil record. And the evidence is what makes this all so amazing. For the mosasaur, we've literally found fossilized stomach contents with shark remains inside. For the plesiosaur, we found its huge, distinct bite marks on the bones of other animals. Paleontologists have even found plesiosaur fossils with embryos still preserved inside them, which proves they gave birth to live young out at sea. And for the ichthyosaur, well, we have those unique bone rings that held up their gigantic eyes.
And all this leads to a pretty humbling thought. As much as we've discovered, there's so much more we just don't know. The ocean is really good at keeping its secrets, and for every single sea monster we found, there are probably dozens we'll never even know existed. Which of course leaves us with one final, kind of haunting question. We have a pretty good idea of what used to rule the ancient abyss, but after millions more years of evolution happening down there in the dark, what's still lurking in the deep today?